Shall we start with introductions?
Sure, yeah, so we're gonna, we'll introduce ourselves and then we'll kind of jump into the topic, which is, starting a Kickstarter and kickstarting your project and things like that. My name is Jason Headley. I am a writer for two current ongoing webcomics, The Class and Jazzu the Wanderer. And I also co-host the Rabble Bites podcast, which is all about creation and things like that. That's everything about me. Go ahead.
I'm Robin Dempsey. I do the online graphic novel Leylines at leylinescomic.com. I'm also part of the Webcomic Alliance, which is dedicated to providing information for people that want to take their creative ideas and make them into online products. So that's me.
Well, I am Nami, or LW Marks. I do the illustrations on Jazzu the Wanderer. I also am the other half of the Rabble Bites podcast, and I do a bunch of other stuff. But we don't know what that is. Even I don't know what that is.
Just a bunch of other stuff.
But yeah, so, yeah.
Cool, so we are going to, as you guys know, we're going to be talking about Kickstarter and how to kickstart a project that you have and getting that off the ground. I think the first thing I will say is that Kickstarter is a lot of work.
Yes.
So be prepared for that. Any amount of work you think it is, triple that, and then it's almost that much work.
What a lot of people don't anticipate is the level of anxiety that goes into it, and it really is like taking a second job. If you're not used to promoting yourself, you need to buckle down and accept the fact that you are going to be sick of yourself probably within the first 5 days, but it is necessary to get that momentum going. Nami and I were talking briefly about this, but we looked at the numbers as to where our supporters came from, and at least for my project, all of our projects were successful. For my project, only about 5% came from internal to the Kickstarter system. Everything else came from people that found me on Twitter, that found me on my website, that I was really pushing to get support from. So that's a really important aspect of it. What did you guys find with yours?
Yeah, very similar.
We found pretty much the same. We had actually hoped with our Kickstarter project to maybe see if we could reach a new audience that we don't normally interact with, because Kickstarter, I know people who just go to Kickstarter and kind of browse through to see the different projects, and I was hoping that we would be able to capture a new audience using that method. Yeah, and we did get a few, but not nearly as many as I thought that we were going to. I think maybe out of the 65 backers, there was maybe 5 names total that we had no idea who it was.
Yeah, I mean, a majority of our backing came from Twitter. Yeah. And that's really not that surprising because both Nami and I have a very strong Twitter presence. So it's, use what you have. We have a lot of people who know us on Twitter. We talk a lot on there. We talk with people. So that was and it's great that you can see where those supporters are come from. I want to talk a little bit, first of all, I think the very first thing we did when we said Kickstarter is we said research other Kickstarter projects.
Yes.
There are things out there that work. There are things out there that definitely don't work. And I think looking at other people's Kickstarters is a great way to kind of get an idea of what they do and what you can do. So if either of you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I actually put together 2 videos, one on surviving Kickstarter, which was done after the fact, and one on just breaking down the numbers, because there's quite a few statistics that are now starting to grow about ways, for example, if you can get past the 1/3 mark of funding, your chances of succeeding in your Kickstarter go up an incredible amount. Just by adding a video, make a video, set time aside to do that, that increases your chances by 50% by itself. Whether or not it's a good video is completely inconsequential. Just having one makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So you can actually find that online as well. Just research Kickstarter and Webcomic Alliance. That should come up. But really take some time to put some time to thinking about how you want to run your campaign. Look at similar projects that were successful and look at what they did. And then try and mesh it with your own style. I think that also goes into researching how you want to set up your reward levels, because there is a bit of an art and a science to reward levels. So those are my comments on it.
Yeah.
I actually want to speak more towards, because you guys covered everything, but I want to speak more towards also set up a timeline, because you are going to, it will take, and I'm not kidding when I say plan for 3 months for your Kickstarter. Because it will take at least a month for researching to figure out everything, and in that research you want to include research for any of your levels. So like if you're going to offer if you're going to offer bookmarks, who are you printing the bookmarks with? How much is it going to cost? What's their breakdown? And you're going to have to turn around and do the whole breakdown to then figure out, okay, this is the ideal amount that I need. but then also with Kickstarter, you need to sign up with Amazon Payments, but you need to sign up with the correct Amazon Payments. I somehow managed to sign up for the wrong one, and that was very frustrating and exasperating. And thank goodness Kickstarter keeps it stupid, but the first thing I would do is when you set it up, go to the last tab where it says like attach Amazon Payments, click that Amazon,
tab,
Then they recommend that in a lot of the rules is
do
go to the
account
last step
stuff
first and then fill it in. Because the thing is, you don't have to say, it isn't active the moment you create it. And you have as long as you want to really sit with that project before you submit it for approval to the Kickstarter staff. So really take your time to kind of get everything squared away, try and get it as visually appealing as you can. I recommend images of what you're offering for rewards if possible, because people often get very confused with what you're offering and which levels, and just a simple graphic can take all those questions and make them easy for people. It's also, in terms of reward levels, the recommended levels I've heard is 8 to 12 different types of reward levels, because too little and people don't really feel like they have much choice, too much and they get so overwhelmed that they won't bother. So 8 to 12 keeps it in a really good range. And there, again, with that research, look at what levels are the most popular on Kickstarter. The $50 level and the $100 level are both very important levels and very popular, but on average people will support at the $35 level. So if you can make sure to hit key levels for different types of backers, that's also a good way to go about it. So in general, put a lot of time and effort into it and really research what you want to do.
Yeah, which is why I say 3 months, because you need to do that research for a month and then just putting everything together and then just going through it that last time. And what they do is when you have everything, they'll give you a link so you can send it to a friend to proofread it.
Yeah, I highly recommend that.
And then with that last month, when you're waiting for approval and you're kind of, getting ready, that's when you start actually saying, hey, going to be launching a Kickstarter, you're going to be super excited, and actually start talking about it to people. Because I've seen people who launched a Kickstarter and didn't talk about it before they launched, and they weren't successful because no one knew what was going on, no one could plan for it. Unfortunately, like with the economy, we're still kind of in a place where people need to budget their money. And as long as they know to budget for it, they'll be excited for it.
And that kind of segues really well into how you pick your funding level. Because you want to, it's very difficult with Kickstarter, it's all or nothing. So you don't want to pick something that's so lofty that you will never make it. But you don't want to pick something that's so small that it doesn't make any appreciable difference to actually funding your project. So be very clear, very, very transparent as to what the money is going to. Actually budget it out for yourself, and also keep in mind that the rewards that you are offering will cost you money. And if you offer extra rewards, I mean, in my case, it was posters, buttons, bookmarks. I made sure to only include things that I already had in stock that didn't cost me extra money to make. But I've had a couple friends that ran into huge problems because they offered lots and lots of original art that they didn't have time to make. They offered different types of prints that they had never made before, so they ended up having these huge expenses both in time and money that the Kickstarter didn't even cover for the additional project because they'd offered all these extra goodies, not thinking about how much time and effort it would take to actually fulfill those.
And, if you're making those from scratch for your Kickstarter, for example, with Yazoo, when we did our Kickstarter, we were offering bookmarks, we were offering prints, and those were things that were going to be made from scratch. So, the cost of those is included in the Kickstarter, how much we were trying to make, because it shouldn't just, you have to keep in mind, a lot of people see that one thing, they're like, I'm funding the publishing of this, or I'm funding the filming of this, or whatever, but you have to also remember to fund everything else that goes along with it. If you're shipping something, you better fund the shipping. If you're making merchandise and things like bookmarks, things like posters, you better be able to fund that. Otherwise, you're taking a step back, you might as well just fund the book yourself, You need to, you want to come out of Kickstarter on top to a place, with Yazoo, we came out in a place where we were able to print our bookmarks, everything we wanted to do, all of our merchandise and the books, and be comfortable there and not have to pull from our own pockets. We're able to ship everything with the Kickstarter money, and that's what you want. You want to be able to do everything with that project and what you're planning to do with that project, and especially your backer rewards, with the money from Kickstarter. Like you guys said, it's no good to, I funded my book, but now I have to put out hundreds of dollars for all the extra merchandise and the shipping, and that's a step backwards.
A good rule of thumb is that you will be able to actually effectively use half of what you receive through your Kickstarter campaign. Kickstarter itself will take 5%. Amazon payments will take 3 to 5%. If you are running this as a business, which I am, it is counted as income because you are getting funding for the purposes of supplying product. So that's taxable. So you lose another 25% from there. And then shipping can take a large chunk as well. So you effectively, after all of that, are going to use about a half of what you get for actually funding the product, and everything else will go to fees, shipping, and taxes. So all things to think about, to consider. But along with that, once you've set that reasonable goal that you think will help you, will be significant in getting towards your goal, but also reasonable for people to meet, think seriously about what your stretch goals are going to be. And think about good increments. This is something I totally screwed up. I went from goal number 1 is half the funding for the book, because I could cover half of it by myself. I did a Kickstarter for volume 2 of my graphic novel. And then I did my second tier, which was double that. That is not a reasonable stretch goal, because it was so overwhelming. People were already like, yeah, we made this first goal, now we're worn out. Because there's a lot of excitement and just enthusiasm because other people are helping you promote, so you're promoting, and there's a lot of energy towards that. But then if you basically say, okay, do that a second time, that's too much for people to handle. I had another friend that did a much better job that said, well, we're going to go a quarter more than that and get an exclusive print to anybody that backed. It wasn't a huge time investment for them, but it was something nice to reward everybody that was involved. And it was a reasonable goal, and they made their stretch goal. And I think a large part of that was that they were very reasonable and thoughtful about how they did those. And those can be huge.
Yeah, I think the nice thing is now that there have been enough projects out that you can seriously go and look at what's been successful and where they've set other stuff and build your model off of that, essentially. There's also other websites now that are really, like there's KickTrack, and we use that to kind of give us an idea of how we were tracking. And it basically can't predict for you how you're doing, but it also can in a weird way. Like, it won't predict for you your final goal, but it will predict, like, okay, on these days, like, this is when you had spikes, and you can kind of look at other people's KickTrack projects and see how you're tracking as opposed to other people's. So there's just a lot of stuff with Kickstarter, and I know we're kind of throwing a bunch of stuff at you, so we apologize.
We have said about half the time for questions.
Yeah, so if you need
so
clarification on anything we've said, but
She has the time.
yeah.
Okay.
Really,
Keep
15 minutes.
15 minutes in? Okay.
Cool.
Actually, sorry, keep going.
No, so I was going to say, so how about we just kind of go through, like, the tabs of Kickstarter?
Oh, the different tabs of Kickstarter,
Yeah,
and how to put together a project?
we laid them out,
Okay.
yeah. So, like, basically we're going to walk you through making a project on